Sometime in the 1950s, inside a windowless laboratory at Harvard University, a pigeon was placed in a small box containing one object, a disc on the wall. When the pigeon pecked the disc, a food pellet dropped into a tray. The pigeon figured this out quickly. Peck, eat. Simple cause and effect. Then, the psychologist running the experiment, B.F. Skinner, one of the most influential behavioral scientists in history, changed one thing. He made the food unpredictable. Instead of delivering a pellet every time, the machine now delivered food randomly. Sometimes after 3 pecks, sometimes after 20, sometimes after 100. No pattern, no logic. No way for the pigeon to predict when the next reward would come. The pigeon went berserk. It began pecking frantically, compulsively, at a dramatically higher rate, up to 12,000 times per hour, even though it was only rewarded roughly once every 110 pecks. Even when it was no longer hungry, the pecking continued. Even when the food stopped coming entirely, the behavior persisted far longer than it would have under a predictable schedule. Skinner had discovered one of the most powerful behavioral mechanisms in the animal kingdom, the variable ratio reinforcement schedule. His clinical conclusion would, decades later, become the blueprint for industries worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Unpredictable rewards produce the highest rate of response and the greatest resistance to stopping of any reinforcement pattern. In plain language, when you do not know when the next reward is coming, you cannot stop trying. Skinner himself noted the parallel immediately. A slot machine is a mechanical implementation of the variable ratio schedule. You pull the lever. Sometimes you win. Usually you do not. But the uncertainty, the tantalizing possibility that the next pull might be the one, keeps you pulling indefinitely. A pigeon that gets food every time will eventually slow down and take breaks. The reward is certain. There is no urgency. A pigeon that gets food randomly will peck itself into exhaustion because stopping means you might miss the next pellet, and it might be 1 peck away. Walk through any casino in Las Vegas and watch the slot machine players. A woman sits in front of a glowing screen at 2 in the morning, tapping the spin button with mechanical rhythm. She has been in that chair for 4 hours. Her drink has gone warm. She is not winning. Over the past hour, she has slowly lost $200. But 11 minutes ago, she hit a small jackpot of $60, and the machine erupted with lights, sounds, and animated coins. That $60 win, a net loss in context, released enough dopamine to fuel another hour of play. The machine is programmed to deliver these small, unpredictable wins at precisely calibrated intervals. Casino designers call it time on device, the same metric that would later obsess Silicon Valley. The slot machine industry generates more revenue in the United States than baseball, theme parks, and movie theaters combined. Not because people enjoy losing money, but because the variable ratio schedule makes stopping feel impossible. For decades, this knowledge remained confined to 2 domains: academic psychology departments and casino floors. Then, Silicon Valley discovered it. When the stock trading app Robinhood launched, it did something no brokerage had done before. It made buying and selling stocks feel like a video game. Your first trade triggered digital confetti raining across the screen. Bright colors, celebratory animation, a burst of pleasure triggered not by financial gain, but by the visual reward of completing an action. When you referred a friend, you received a free stock, but the stock was random. It could be a share worth hundreds of dollars or a penny stock worth almost nothing. To reveal which one, you tapped a digital card and scratched it off, mimicking the exact mechanics of a lottery ticket. Push notifications highlighted trending stocks, most popular lists, and price movements, stimuli designed to pull you back into the app, to keep checking, scrolling, trading. This was not a brokerage platform. It was a Skinner box with a stock ticker. Millions of users flooded in, many young, many inexperienced, many trading at frequencies no traditional investor would consider prudent. In 2021, FINRA fined Robinhood $70 million for providing misleading information and system outages that harmed customers. Massachusetts separately charged the company for using gamification to lure inexperienced investors. The confetti was eventually retired. The scratch tickets were removed. But the underlying architecture, the variable rewards, the dopaminergic triggers, the frictionless interface designed to keep you pressing the lever, had already been replicated across the entire financial technology industry. Every trading app you use today is a descendant of that box. The gig economy runs on the same mechanism. If you drive for a ride-sharing platform, your earnings are inherently unpredictable. Some hours lucrative, others dead. You never know when the next high-paying ride will appear. The apps are designed to exploit this uncertainty with surgical precision. Investigative reporting has documented how drivers receive achievement badges, progress bars tracking proximity to bonuses, and end-of-shift notifications telling them they are close to a goal, just a few more rides to earn it. These are not neutral tools. The progress bar exploits the same psychology as a video game experience bar, the near-miss effect, where being close to a goal feels like an obligation rather than a choice. Drivers report working 14, 16, 18-hour days, not because the hourly rate justifies it, but because the variable structure and gamified interface create a compulsion to keep going. Just one more ride. The next one might be the big one. The pigeon pecks 12,000 times an hour. The driver stays on the road until 2 in the morning. Social media is the largest Skinner box ever constructed. Every time you open a feed, you enter a variable reward environment, algorithmically curated to be unpredictable. Most posts are dull. Some are mildly interesting. Then, randomly, something genuinely engaging appears. A stunning photograph, a shocking headline, a message from someone you care about. You cannot predict when the rewarding content will arrive, so you keep scrolling. The pull to refresh gesture, dragging your thumb down the screen to reload, is not a technical necessity. Modern apps update automatically. The gesture exists because it replicates the physical motion of pulling a slot machine lever. Swipe down, see what appears. Maybe something good this time. Former executives at major technology companies have publicly acknowledged that these products were designed with Skinner's research explicitly in mind. Nir Eyal, a behavioral design consultant who wrote the book on this, literally titled Hooked: How to Build Habit-Forming Products, describes the variable reward as the core engine of engagement, drawing directly on operant conditioning research. But the mechanism extends far beyond social media, into corners of daily life most people never examine. Your email inbox is a variable reward schedule. You check it compulsively, not because every message is important, but because you do not know which one will be. The uncertainty drives the checking. Studies have found that the average office worker checks email 77 times per day, and each check produces a small dopaminergic response, regardless of whether anything valuable is waiting. Dating apps are variable reward machines, operating on human loneliness. You swipe because you do not know if the next profile will be the one. The app delivers matches unpredictably, sometimes 3 in an evening, sometimes none for a week. The uncertainty keeps you swiping through hundreds of faces, each one a pull of the lever. Even the humble notification badge, that small red circle with a number inside it, is a variable reward trigger. You do not know what is behind it. It might be an important message, a meaningless update, or a marketing email. But the uncertainty is intolerable. The badge must be cleared. The lever must be pulled. The video game industry has been the most transparent about its use of these mechanics because the mechanisms are visually obvious. Loot boxes, randomized virtual containers that might hold valuable in-game items or worthless duplicates, are a direct implementation of Skinner's schedule. You pay real money, receive a random reward, and do not know what is inside until you open it. The uncertainty is the product. Multiple governments have classified loot boxes as gambling. Belgium banned them outright. The Netherlands imposed restrictions. The United Kingdom's House of Lords recommended treating them as games of chance. But the same mechanics driving loot boxes also drive your inbox, your social feed, your dating app, and your stock portfolio notifications. The children's mobile game industry deserves particular scrutiny. Games marketed to children as young as 6 use variable reward mechanics, spinning prize wheels, mystery treasure chests, countdown timers that create artificial urgency to drive in-app purchases. A child playing a cartoon farming game taps a glowing treasure chest and receives a random reward. Sometimes a rare golden item appears and the child's face lights up. Usually, a common item appears, and the child taps again. The mechanic is identical to a slot machine. The user is in elementary school. A 2022 report by the Federal Trade Commission documented that children's apps frequently use these techniques without adequate parental controls, generating billions in annual revenue from what is, functionally, operant conditioning applied to developing brains. The neuroscience confirms what Skinner observed behaviorally 70 years ago. Inside a brain imaging laboratory, researchers monitor dopamine activity while subjects anticipate rewards of varying predictability. The finding is counterintuitive. Dopamine does not spike when you receive a reward. It spikes when you anticipate a reward that is uncertain. When a reward is guaranteed, dopamine is moderate and stable. When a reward is impossible, dopamine drops to baseline. But in the zone of maximum uncertainty, when a reward is possible but unpredictable, dopamine surges to its highest levels. This is why the moment before you open a notification is more neurologically intense than the content of the notification itself. Why the anticipation of checking your portfolio produces a stronger response than seeing the actual numbers. Why the swipe on a dating app delivers more dopamine than the match. The technology companies do not need to deliver consistent value. They only need to deliver consistent uncertainty. The uncertainty generates the dopamine. The dopamine generates the behavior. The behavior generates the engagement metrics. The engagement metrics generate the revenue. You are not the customer of these platforms. You are the pigeon. The advertisers are the customers. Your attention, sustained by a variable reward schedule fine-tuned by machine learning algorithms processing billions of data points, is the product being sold. The education technology industry has begun adopting the same mechanics, often with good intentions. Language learning apps award streaks, points, and badges. They send notifications warning your streak is about to break. They introduce random bonus rewards for lessons completed at certain times. These techniques increase engagement. People spend more time on the app. But the uncomfortable question is whether they are learning more or simply pressing the lever more. When the gamification disappears, the streaks, the points, the badges removed, does the behavior persist? Or does it extinguish, like a pigeon that stops pecking when the food stops coming? The fitness industry tells the same story. A running app that awards random achievement badges keeps users logging more miles. But a 2019 study in the Journal of Medical Internet Research found that gamified fitness apps produced high initial engagement followed by steep drop-offs. Users were responding to the variable rewards, not developing intrinsic motivation. When the novelty of the badges faded, the running stopped. The rewards were driving the behavior. The behavior was not building the habit. The grocery industry has quietly adopted variable rewards through loyalty programs. A supermarket app gives you a digital scratch card after every purchase. Scratch to reveal your discount. Sometimes 5% off, sometimes 20%, sometimes nothing. The unpredictability keeps you scanning the app at every checkout, keeps you choosing this store over the competitor, keeps you pulling the lever. A coffee chain awards a free drink after every 10 purchases, but occasionally inserts a random bonus, a surprise free pastry, an unexpected double points day. The fixed schedule drives baseline loyalty. The variable bonuses drive obsessive engagement. The combination is devastatingly effective. So how do you step out of the box? The first defense is recognition. When you feel the compulsion to check, refresh, scroll, or swipe one more time, pause and ask, am I responding to a genuine need or to a variable reward schedule? Is there something I actually need to see, or am I just pulling the lever? The second defense is to reintroduce friction. Skinner's experiments showed that adding even small barriers to the lever dramatically reduced response rates. Delete the app from your home screen. Turn off notifications. Add a screen time limit. Each layer of friction is a small wall between you and the lever. The third is to replace variable rewards with fixed ones. Instead of checking your portfolio randomly throughout the day, set a single scheduled time. Instead of scrolling a feed for unpredictable content, subscribe to a newsletter that arrives at a fixed time with curated information. Convert the slot machine back into a vending machine. The deepest defense is understanding what Skinner understood 70 years ago. The variable reward does not work because you are weak or lack discipline. It works because your brain was designed by millions of years of evolution to respond to uncertain rewards with maximum attention. In the ancestral environment, the berry bush that sometimes had fruit and sometimes did not required more vigilance than the one that was always full. The hunting ground where prey appeared unpredictably demanded more persistence than the one where food was guaranteed. Variable rewards drove our ancestors to explore, persist, and keep trying when outcomes were uncertain. This was adaptive. It kept the species alive. But the same neural architecture that helped our ancestors survive the savannah is now being exploited by algorithms designed to keep you staring at a screen. The pigeon had no choice. It was locked in a box by a scientist. You are carrying the box in your pocket. And unlike the pigeon, you put yourself inside it. The question is not whether you can escape. The doors are not locked. The question is whether you will notice you are inside one.